Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Force Diet Podcast. Wherever, whenever, and however you may be listening, we are honored that you've joined us. On today's episode, we'll be covering ANDOR episodes 1 through 3, just dropped a few days ago now on Disney+. And, well, let's face it, it's the talk of the Star Wars universe. So we're going to discuss the things we liked, maybe there were some things we didn't like, and discuss maybe where the show's going to be going over the next 9 episodes. So sit back and relax. This is where the fun begins.
Force Diet.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power.
Why is the Force connecting us?
I am a Jedi.
Always two there are.
We're a dyad in the Force.
And welcome to episode 35, Force Dad Podcast. Again, we're back.
Because Obi-Sean can't count.
You know, counting is really hard for engineers, especially.
Math is not our strong suit.
But yeah, welcome back. Jedi John, Obi-Sean, as always. We're ready to chat about our favorite Andor moments, along with, you know, some stuff we wish may have been different, and then maybe where the show's going. Super excited to get into it. We've got a couple things, just, you know, the typical pleasantries that we enjoy exchanging. We're going to skip fantasy football this week completely.
That's right.
And just ignore it because Obi-Sean just wants to brag. And
About how I beat you last week?
I'm not having it.
And how I'm going to beat you this week?
I'm
'Cause
not having it.
We're facing the other league?
Yeah, 2 leagues in a row. The schedule really did not work out in my favor this year.
Well, it didn't help that you lost,
All my running backs.
which technically I'm in the same boat, right? I went out and I had to trade for one. But yeah, you lost all your running backs. One of your wide receivers was out too. And so, yeah, you were basically playing with like 2/3 of a team. So I felt bad for you. I did text you to let you know, because that's proper gamesmanship to text your opponent.
You wanted no excuses. That's all
That's
it was.
true. I wanted you to have a full roster, so you could put in. Who did you end up? Zach Moss, didn't you pick him?
I had to get a running back.
Fantastic.
It was
the third stringer
2 points. I think he got
in Buffalo.
He did put up something, which is better than some of my players, I think.
Yeah. I think
Jerry Jeudy went out with 1.
he did. He
Damn
did. He got
injury.
1 catch and like 3 yards. So. Yeah, so hopefully I can duplicate that result this week in our other league, where I am projected to beat you somehow. So, because my team is trash in that league too. I got beat by like 60 points last week in that league.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I'm not projected to win, but it's fine.
Well, the guy I went up against had Lamar Jackson. He had.
Is he good?
He did good last week.
Yeah.
Dude scored like 200 points last week. I
something
scored 100,
stupid.
140 some odd points. I scored third most points, and I got just completely run a train on. So, and then tonight, we're actually burning the midnight oil.
It's a late night.
It is quite late. It is.
You're really keeping me up past my bedtime.
It's 12:30.
I don't know if I appreciate this very much.
So, but we were at trivia night tonight, which was fun.
Well, we had a good night. I mean, you guys can imagine the knowledge we store in our heads. And, we had a good night. We just couldn't quite bring it home.
No.
I'll say we had half a table.
Yeah. I mean, there were 6 of us sitting there, so that sounds about right.
Yeah.
But, we finished, 6th out of, 35 teams?
Well, we were table 43, but there's probably only...
I think there were some gaps in the tables, but good time had by all. So
lots of food, lots of drinks.
some bevies.
Yeah, I think there was some blue milk available. And, I partook. I mean,
I did as well.
Yeah.
And so now I'm winding down the evening with a nice hearty glass of water.
Oh, H2O is the Bacta of the of our universe.
That's right. So I mean, with that, well, let's dive into Andor. I mean, it's I don't know if the hype was obviously intense.
Oh, I was hyped.
I feel like the hype surrounding Kenobi was obviously great. but it had like 3 years to kind of marinate, and then with it being shown at Celebration, it kind of gave it a boost. But the excitement around Andor, I felt like, was almost greater. I don't know if you felt the same.
In some ways, yes. I think part of it helped that Kenobi finished so strong. So they were like, "What's next?" And I think that really helped Andor. But at Celebration, I mean, Diego Luna got up on stage and just crushed it with his, with just him speaking about the whole thing. And then, the thing that had us all captivated also was last week with Disney Plus Day, they launched another like teaser with it again, just to, we're just gonna get them one more time. And what's crazy is we had to wait till episode 3 for that scene, which I was expecting it in the opening episode, and I'm like, oh, what are we doing? We're not gonna get there. And then episode 2 came. Oh, we're still not gonna get there. And obviously, in my opinion, and probably shared by many out there, those first 3 episodes really connected. You probably could not do them separately because it would have been too much left on the hook would have been too big, and you can't hold the attention for what they were hooking us on, just because of how the episodes felt, how they ended, and the need for more information immediately because, the line was just not strong enough to hold it, so to speak.
Yeah, and I felt the kind of rollover effect when I was watching it, and I didn't start watching it until, I don't know, 10:30, Friday night, Thursday night, and I found myself just wanting to jump into the next episode. And they did such a good job of, I thought that they did a really good job with the pacing, and even though I think some probably felt it was a little slow, we've got 12 episodes to flesh a lot of it out. He had the flashbacks and stuff like that. So I didn't find myself clock watching at all with these first few episodes. And they did such a good job of closing out each episode where you're like, it left you perfect to roll into the next. I think of the conversation that Luthen and that fella had about Ferrix, and if you can't find it here, you can't find it anywhere, and then it cuts to credits, and then you're like, and I need to see the next episode. So I thought the way that they had paced it was good, and again, I think they did need to do all 3 at once. Turns out that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, in my eyes, that's probably the first arc of the series that we saw. So, which you had to play together, because if I would have ended on some of the scenes they ended on, not only would I have been wanting more, like you said, like I'm ready to go to the next episode right now, but also I wouldn't have it available, and so I may lose interest because it wasn't quick enough to get to where you wanted to be, but it got there within the 3 episode arc. So yeah.
So we're not going to break down, we're not going to rehash each episode.
Oh, I think we should do a shot by shot. Let's compare it to the volume. Let's compare it to whatever else we want to compare it to. It doesn't matter. We can compare it to butterflies outside. I don't care. No, I'm kidding.
But that opening scene, so episode 1, that opening scene.
Oh my God.
Was that felt like Star Wars. Actually, I should say the whole series feels like Star Wars to me, but there's something about shooting on site that gives you, obviously depth of shot, but it allows you to create an environment that actually draws you in as a viewer, and you feel like you're there with the character. And that first scene does such a good job of doing that.
And I mean, this first scene not only drew you into the show, but it gave you immediate gratification for like fandom, as far as this is the grittiness that a lot of people have been waiting for. I've been waiting for, and it was exciting to watch. And I go back to that Book of Boba scene when it's Mando, taking the
Yep.
taking the blade to the.
At the meat packing facility.
I've got bad news for everybody. I am not going to recall names.
The memory's
tonight.
a bit hazy
this
tonight.
This is not going to happen. But
that's fine.
But when he went to the meat packing and just went after it, and what we saw him cut a guy in half on a table and just slice it. Yeah, that's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Not every episode, but that's the grittiness. That's the benchmark. You know, like we want that darkness, and Cassian delivered it immediately in this episode, in the first episode, and as soon as it happened, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you already have a conflict within the first, 5 minutes of you watching the show.
Yeah, I mean it sets up the initial arc, right? And the scenery, it had a futuristic look. I told you that it reminded me a lot of Blade Runner, with kind of the brighter neon, like pastel neon set against that dark, rainy, environment. And yeah, the shakedown scene, I let out a verbal, hell yeah, when he, because that's, you talked about it, that, and we've talked about on this on the show. I wanted the realism, the grit, the grime, the dirtiness of what Star Wars, what is going on in the galaxy, is for everyone who isn't a Jedi or a stormtrooper. And that was something that was absent from all 3 episodes, which was the traditional tropes. Obviously no Jedi, there were no stormtroopers, there was, they had to talk about the Empire, but there's no Vader, there's none of that. There's none of that to explicitly say this is Star Wars, right? Outside of, technically it's Cassian, right? We know Cassian from the universe, but everything else felt real. It felt lived in. And that's something that we haven't gotten yet from Star Wars, other than Rogue One, where, yes, you have Vader at the end, but up until that point, until the Battle of Scarif, it felt more real. And I think the show has done a really good job of setting that, again, right out of the gate. So let's focus on some of our positives, the things we liked over the first 3 episodes. Again, we're not going to rehash each episode shot for shot. So overall, what are some of your positive takeaways from the first 3 episodes?
I'm going to go number 1, the music. We've talked about music a lot on this show, so when I'm watching a new episode of something, I immediately focus in on it, and the industrial feel to the show because of the music, it fits so well, and it just gives that grittiness. It just gives the environment that one level up. And I'm very, very happy with the music choices they've made so far. And I hope it continues because they've done such a great job with character themes, with the theme of the show, just that industrial undertone and its grittiness. I just love it. So
yeah, and it's evolved. It evolved over the 3 episodes, right? Like
already
the musical theming has changed. I think, one episode you had more drums, more kind of like a rock feel to it, and then one was more orchestral, and the way Nicholas Patel has done this, so far, yeah, the music has been top notch for sure.
I could after watching the first episode, I'm like, I can just listen to this like whenever.
When are they releasing the soundtrack? Because
exactly.
I just want that in my ear all the time.
It's so good. It's just so good. And then for me, it's just the environment building that they did between the streets and the real life sets they did.
Mm-hmm.
You can't replace some of that stuff. The volume does a great job. You can't take anything away from it. Some of the shots I've gotten in that studio have just been fantastic, but feeling like you're there you get different camera angles that you can play with. You get different POVs. It just feels different, and I'm very excited they shot this the way they did, and it just looks fantastic, and it feels. Yeah, I just enjoy the feel of it and the cinematography so far. It's really great stuff. And what about you?
Well,
I mean-
to talk briefly, to talk about the cinematography, that scene at the end of 3 when they're closing in on Cassian and Luthen in the warehouse, and the way that they cut, to the East team, and then they cut to the North team or the West team or whatever it was, and the way everything is spliced together, with the backdrop of them smacking on, well, darn near everything that they could get their hands on to make that cacophony of noise, right? It was so loud and disorienting, and Marva says, you hear that, this is what a reckoning sounds like. And again, noise, music, the cinematography, it's getting out from the volume. Like this show could not have been shot any other way, like, because of the way that it pulls you in. And as a viewer, that's what you want. That's what you need. You need buy-in, right? Because the cool thing is, outside of Cassian, we don't know, we have no clue what's going to happen to these people. And that, the suspense, and, which is built really well with in conjunction with the music. It's that, well, I mean, it's called like a spy thriller, like espionage type thing, but it feels like that. And
yeah, personally, I thought Marva was dead. I thought they were just gonna.
Oh yeah, I thought she was toast too.
I thought they were just gonna end her, and then when you hear her talking about everything, you kind of get like, oh shoot, like these guys are so screwed, because you don't know what's gonna happen exactly, obviously, because none of these guys have any plot armor that we know of yet. And when she's like, you need to be worried when the music when it stops, because that's when. And then you see him running out of the house, and you're like, oh my gosh. Like, I'd be scared too, though, thinking about, I mean, you put yourself in those guys' positions. They're like, this lady might be actually not messing with us. Like, she might be.
Well, and you got to think too, that
Grasso came through.
that security detail, though. They said, we've not seen blues here for some time, right? Like, so Ferrix, it's kind of that self-governing planet, right? Like it obviously exists within the Empire, but it's not actively controlled.
And they do things their own way. Exactly.
And so you are going into hostile territory, right, where you don't know anything. You don't know the lay of the land. You don't know anything, right? And you're trying to go and serve this arrest warrant for this character, but you don't know how he's tied in with the rest of the group, right? So they're protecting him, they're protecting themselves, right? And you've got that French resistance kind of feel to it, the Culper Ring type, from the Revolutionary War, all of these underground callbacks, right? Where you've got the corporate, because effectively that's what they are. They're like the security detailer from the corporate planet, Morlana, right? And they're coming into kind of the gritty worker planet, trying to impose their will, and the workers are fighting back. So you could even look at, unionized labor and companies in the late 1800s, early 1900s when you had those union battles. And so there's a lot of historical parallels too that it kind of relates to. And so but from a character perspective, the deputy inspector, I really enjoy, like,
I like the guy.
I enjoy that. I hate him so much.
Yeah, I like that, he took a stance on what he believes in, which is important, and for any antagonist or even minor character. Like, if they're taking a stand for something, you're like, oh, well, pay attention for a minute. I really liked the chief inspector basically giving him the bro, just leave this go because it's a bad time, and not because I'm telling you it's a bad time for these men, but also I'm presenting to the big dogs. So shut your mouth, keep your head down, and just bury it because I need no problems right now. And that's, I mean, honestly, very much the political structure we're in today. I'm not going deeper anywhere in that, but it happens in corporate America all the time where I don't need the big guys asking any more questions than they have to. So bury this crap. And, well, he didn't. He went full throttle the other way, in fact. But I really enjoy his character. I think he's going to grow from his miserable experience. Because I don't know. It's not going to break him. I think it's going to build him. Because I can't imagine they introduce this guy and then just drop his story, So he's going to be the chaser for the entire series, so far at least. That's my prediction.
Right.
But yeah, he's one of my favorite characters. And then, seeing some of the people that have interacted with Cassian on the planet, like Bix and some of the other guys that are like, well, he obviously owes a lot of guys money. But and he does it the Cassian way, and he borrows, and he wants to pay back, but yeah, it didn't come through this time.
Yeah, it's a lot like Han, right? And trying to
of,
talk his way out of a lot of things, right?
Yeah, you owe this guy money. Well, yeah, talk to them. I took care of that.
Right.
Oh, they're here too. Oh shoot. Yes. Yeah, I owe you. But yeah, it's very interesting in that aspect, like, because he is a smuggler. Like, that's what he does. So the whole stage on the planet, he had his home, he had everything he needed, he always wanted more, and obviously his main driving force currently is to find his sister. So but yeah, favorite character so far, Cassian, obviously, because, well, want to know more. The
deputy inspector. So I think his name is Cyril. Like his character's name is that.
I hope we get more of his first report there. The guy that was like, oh yeah, punish everybody. Like
so that was
help me out there.
Yeah. So that's Sergeant Linus Musk.
Sergeant Moss.
Sergeant Mutton Chops.
Sergeant Mutton Chops. He was good.
He was great.
Honestly, I thought that guy was going to propel our current deputy to be chief. Like, honestly, like, I think that's probably how it ends up. Is I think the chief gets booted because they start pushing on the wrong buttons, but the right ones at the same time.
Sure.
To clean up the system, But yeah, Cassian. I love Bix. Very cool character. I hope we get more of her. I think she's slated only for one more episode. So
that's according to IMDb.
Yeah,
which could be a bit misleading.
It could be because they're trying to hide whatever they can. And then, I thought Marva was going to eat it. I love her wit. I love seeing her in the flashbacks because she's a very strong-willed character.
And for those who are eagle-eyed Harry Potter fans, she plays Mrs. Dursley in those movies too.
Nobody waves wands around
she's
here.
She's obviously an accomplished actor.
Yeah, nobody waves wands around here. We wave lightsabers, sir. But yeah, no, very accomplished actress, and she played the role fantastically. I mean, no problems there. Am I allowed to go into what I don't like yet? Or
hold on, because I want to talk about the deputy real quick.
Okay, you go.
So yeah, so I got more of a kind of a brown noser vibe from him, and the reason why is because he thinks the chief inspector is inept, right? Because he's ignoring it, right? He's not adhering to protocol, right?
But normally when you're a brown noser, you're trying to brown nose the guy right in front of you.
Well, see, but that's the thing. I think he's trying to go around him to basically boot him out, like you're saying, to get him replaced, right? And he saw this task as his way up, right? Because he's trying to ascend the corporate ladder. And so he's
Until he had a gun on his hip.
right.
He might as well piss his pants.
That's what I was gonna say. So he's got this tough guy attitude, and the second he's in the thick of it, he completely turns into a pile of goo. And so he talks a big game, but he has nothing to back it up. Whereas, what was his name?
Mosk.
Yeah, Lieutenant Mosk or
Yeah,
Sergeant Mosk.
He was waiting for a big speech.
He was, and so then you get the quiet, rousing, thanks.
Yeah, I've never done this before.
Thanks for being here, sort of speech, right? And
classic upper management.
right, exactly.
Speech.
And clearly someone who's never had to put himself in that position before, right? He has no clue what he's getting himself into. He's used to sitting behind a desk and going about things that way, right? And so I think he realizes when he's on the dropship, right? They focus squarely on his face before that dropship comes into land. He is scared ishless, right? And by the end of the fight, he's completely gone backwards, right? And they thought they were going to get this rousing arrest. He was going to get to trot him in and show him off and say, hey, look what I got. And in the end, it ends up getting a bunch of people killed. And that's all on him now.
Yeah, they had 2 murdered. And
right.
now there's
and
8 or 10.
He didn't listen now. So his, he's the one who's in the fire right now. In essence, he and Cassian are really no different here because they both have done stuff that have gotten...
Oh, you mean they went rogue?
Oh, there it is. There it is. So that look on his face, right? That transition from definitely Greenhorn to now he's been through this fight, and he's completely shell shocked. His decision has gotten his men killed. And now he has to cover for himself, right? He has to clean up the mess. And so, like you were saying, he's going to become the chaser. Well, the reason why is because this is all going to blow back on him. And now he's got to try, to save himself. And so he goes from being the corporate ladder climber trying to circumvent, chain of command because thinks his boss is inept and ignoring things that he shouldn't be. And now he's gone and got himself in deep. And now he's going to have to dig himself out. So how his character continues to evolve, because he's evolved quite a bit over 3 episodes, that should be good to see over the next...
I honestly don't even... we're not quite there yet, but, we can be there. I can actually see him getting fired or terminated from his position, and then him becoming the rogue, going after Cassian still to prove himself for the company.
Right. Yeah, and then as far as Tim, right? Bix is
poor Tim.
Well, I don't know, because Tim thought he was doing himself a favor because he wanted Bix all to himself, right? And then he goes and tries to do the heroic thing, and well, he gets himself killed, and that, again, brief as it is for that character, right? You can see, the jealousy and stuff between him and Bix, right?
Yeah, honestly, you just gotta sit around the bar for another 10 minutes and watch her pull away from the guy you're jealous of.
Right.
Yeah, do your own thing, bro.
So, but the betrayal, that as soon as she realizes what's happened and that she had told Tim that Cassian's from Canary, or is Canarian, all of that clicks, and then he realizes what he's done, how he's screwed up, and then he tries to make it right, and you get kind of that feel, that emotion from all the characters, not just Cassian, right? And so, just to kind of tie it up in a nice little bow, the first 3 episodes from a character perspective, the environments, the music, the cinematography, I can't wait for Wednesday. I can't wait for this Wednesday, and waiting a week for every episode going forward is going to be tough, considering how that last episode ended with the action, the way that the workers, jumped in to help, like, what was it? What was his name?
Who are you looking for?
Oh, his buddy who tied that thing to
Brasso.
that Brasso. Yeah. The way
Hey,
he walked.
I got a name.
There you go.
You guys are welcome.
And he walks off though, like
Oh my
so
gosh.
proud, right? And I actually thought he put like a thermal detonator or something on the ship.
That's what I thought it was going to explode.
I thought it was just
yeah.
going to explode when it went to take off,
But you
but
see
having
that.
it attached is even better. and the scrapyard again, it feels kind of like Braca,
Brock.
and how I feel like Cassian is meant to be one of them because of the wall of gloves. There was one spot missing, and I feel like that was supposed to be Cassian's. But I don't know. I hope we get some more of them, because they are, I think, kind of that Splinter Cell part of the rebellion. And so I think we're going to go back to Ferrix at least a couple more times this series, even though Cassian is now left with Luthen. So,
In my head, the only reason to go back there is number one for Marva
and Bix.
and Bix. And if they go back for Marva, they take B2 Emo.
B2 Emo.
Interesting name choice, by the way, for the droid.
I think it's supposed to be B2EM0, but so he's got, which is interesting because I don't think we've had a droid that had 5 letters in it in its name, but I don't think that matters anyways.
They just call him B anyway, right?
Mhm, they do.
just
They
call him
do.
B. So, I do like the droid. It's obviously been through a lot with Marva, especially. So we'll probably get more flashbacks with her and him. Sorry. Well, who knows?
I mean,
I feel like-
he has a male voice, so you can call the droid a him, I suppose.
But yeah, super curious what we get more in the history of the Canary people because I feel like more happened to them. Because I was truly surprised at the flashes we saw. I thought we were going to get a situation where he went back to the village and something had happened
Sure.
to where he lost his sister or something. You know what I mean? Like that's why he was searching for her because he had no clue what happened to her. Would make more sense to me than
Then he went off and left her behind.
by accident.
Well, no, he intentionally went with the group to help them on the tracking mission, right?
But
And then he
didn't
got
want-
left behind
yeah,
on the ship,
he
right?
didn't want to go off planet
Right.
on purpose. So it was just an interesting twist that Marvel was his savior off Canary. So
Well, and they kind of allude to what happened as far as the mining accident
Yes.
that kind of wiped out the people, I guess. So
nobody survived.
right, and so I hope that they flesh that out a little bit more, other than the inhabitants that survived became kind of tribal, and that was it. I don't know.
I would think that everyone there was already like the people there were already there before the mining accident.
Right, and then what was that they were all that was left,
Yeah.
and so then they kind of became tribal in that sense because, you're saying that their tribe already existed, like coexisted with all the miners who were there beforehand.
Without knowing.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're probably right. So as far as the Canary arc or flashbacks or whatever, what did you think of those? Did you?
Gosh, it's so tough. Did you ever watch Arrow or WB?
No, I didn't.
Okay. It kind of has that feeling to it where some of the scenes drag during the flashbacks, and you're like, yeah, I understand why you're showing me this, but I didn't need it to infer that. Like, I could have had a more impactful moment. Like, Marva helping him off the ship, that is impactful. They could have showed me that, and maybe him leaving for literally they could have cut out a whole scene probably, and I could have inferred what happened. But everything else is just, it draws it out a little bit. But it's good because we've always heard from we heard from Cassian. He's been in the fight since he was 6 years old. So we want to see that and how that developed.
Right.
And I'm sure we'll get more.
Yeah, the ship being so it came out over the last couple of days that people noticing the markings on the ship, because the dialogue talks about a Republic frigate, circling or coming in, and I think, and Marva even says that they killed a Republic officer, right? So everyone assumes that it was a Republic ship, but everyone's now spotted that it was actually a Separatist ship, or at least the crew were CIS affiliated, and so that's interesting because it implies that, again, that the Clone War, the ongoing Clone Wars were, in this at this planet, that there really would have been no reason for them to be near that planet. If there was nobody on it, I guess it would just have been a space battle or something like that. So it'll be interesting if there's any sort of explanation as to how that ship ended there, and technically I guess you don't need it for the Cassian story, but I mean, it might help to clarify why, Marva thought that it was a Republic officer when they were clearly, not. Now, with the gas that apparently killed them or disabled them, it reminded me a lot of the gas, for anybody who's read the High Republic stuff, that the Nihil would use to basically knock out their targets before they boarded a ship. So, and the fact that they were all wearing masks implies that there was some sort of expectation of it, but the mask apparently didn't help. So I expect the flashbacks to be a prominent, not necessarily to his early days, but to be a prominent fixture in the show, to show how he came up probably within the Imperial ranks, right, where he talks about, put on their uniforms and stuff like that, because he's definitely...
I hope we get that.
Well, we will, because there's no way he's going to go back to that now, right, in present day. So all of that has to take place in the past, right? So the white jumpsuit scene where he's arrested and he's on the sort of city planet from the trailer and stuff like that, all of that's got to be flashbacks. That's my thinking as far as,
yeah, it could be,
how flashbacks play into future storytelling.
I feel like Luthen might want to push it right away because, well, he's playing with pawns. He reminds me of the chess master that literally is Cassian's a pawn to him, and he will use him as he sees fit, when he sees fit, and yeah, that's it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him plug him in again because, like Cassian's, it's easy. They're just so fat and happy, like I can just walk in and just do whatever I want because they don't. Their arrogance is unrivaled,
Right.
So, I think we're gonna see more in person in timeline for that.
Oh, sure, gotcha.
Just because I think Luthen's gonna push him to do it.
So now, was there anything that you weren't a fan of, that you didn't care for in these first 3 episodes?
I'm trying to think of anything like super like cringe, like it's
right.
It's tough because I don't know about you and I don't know about any of our listeners, but I've been watching a lot of other Disney Plus episodes for new shows, and some of them are just, it's hard to get through. So I'm not gonna dig into them now, but just comparing Andor to some of them. I'm not seeing the moments where it's just like, ooh, we could have done without that completely kind of thing. The flashbacks, a little slow. I understand most of them, so it's okay. I do wish, I told you before the show, like before our we started recording tonight, I really wish we would get the Canary language fleshed out so I could just, like, we obviously can infer what's happening, but why wouldn't you want to hear the words or see the words or anything else? So that's a little frustrating for me just because I want to know exactly.
Sure, that makes sense.
But other than that, I'm pretty happy where we're at right now. I think if I would have only got 1 or 2 episodes for the opening, I'd have been like, what the hell are we watching right now? Because we wouldn't have got to the climax of Luthen meeting Cassian. And I thought that was going to happen episode 1. And so, like, the fact I didn't get episode 1, I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's get the next one because I know it's happening, so give me the next one. And then episode 2, it still didn't happen. I'm like, oh my God, play again. Let's go. So, but I think that was it. Like, if I had to wait for episode 3 to come, I would be upset right now, and I'd probably be talking super negative outside of the aesthetics and the cinematography and the music of the show. Even though I liked some of the scenes, I'd be really upset we were at. But we have the arc, so I'm very excited for that and curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I am in a similar boat. I don't have a lot of negative things to discuss or things that I wasn't a huge fan of. For me, this has been the best Star Wars Disney Plus show that has been released for me personally. And the reason I say that is because while I love The Mandalorian and
Hold on.
like for Star Wars,
Obi-Wan?
honestly, I love Obi-Wan. Don't get me wrong, I love Obi-Wan. But these first 3 episodes for me were, I guess it's kind of hard to explain, but I love these types of stories, and I love them because they paint a picture of what it would have been like for everyone else. Like I said earlier, the other 99% who are wrapped up in the Clone Wars and subsequent Galactic Civil War, and you don't get that with you kind of get it with the movies, but again, it's from one perspective. It's from the perspective of the Jedi, right? Like, you don't get the layperson's experience with it, and you kind of see it a little bit in the Clone Wars cartoons, right? Like, you get the arcs with like Saw or some of the other alien species arcs, mini arcs, right, during the Clone Wars. But other than that, you don't really get the sense of what a galactic civil war or the ongoing Clone War would have been like. And so for me, I've always been a fan of like spy films, espionage stuff, the Bourne movies. I really like the Bourne movies,
Love 'em.
and even some of the new James Bond, some of the new James Bond movies with Daniel Craig have been really enjoyable. And I understand it's a little bit different, right? It's not set in the same sort of environment from like a war perspective, but like those cerebral things appeal to me. And while I love Obi-Wan and the character and I love the show, there were certain things that had to happen or could not happen, right, that kind of took things away, right? And we already talked about it earlier about most of the things being shot on the volume. You couldn't set up certain scenes with certain ways because you're limited on space. Now, certain scenes within Obi-Wan, of course, they shot outside off the volume. But even those felt stunted, right? This did not feel like that. You felt like you were in the world. You felt like you were a character, or a person on these planets, and at times. And so again, I love The Mandalorian. I really loved Obi-Wan. I enjoyed Book of Boba, but it's taking it out of the traditional tropes, Mandalorians, right, Jedi, etc., like I said earlier, and giving it back to the people. And I want that story. I want to know what is driving these people to fight back, outside of the Empire is just awful. And and the thing too is you're going to have people in this story, I bet, who are loyalists, right? They're not going to want to join in, right? Just like you did during the Revolutionary War, or any revolution for that matter. You're going to have parties who they don't want to rock the boat because it suits them, right? And where you've got the working class and the little guy who's getting stepped all over, and they have no choice but to fight back. And so I feel like that's where this is going, right? And we kind of see that from the trailer with Mon Mothma talking to that one guy, I'm going to presume it's on Coruscant, about, as long as they're distracted, they won't know what I'm really doing. He's like, what are you doing? Right? Because there's going to be certain components of people on Coruscant who aren't going to want to support this, right? And so you're going to have that dynamic too. And so, again, for me, this show is what I wanted a Star Wars show to be. That, again, if you're gonna not include the standard stereotypes, like for me, it's not perfect, but it's about as good as I could have hoped for. Like the hype, it hit it for me. So I don't really have any negatives to say about it yet. Off these 3 episodes, maybe that will change, but
I mean, the music alone just gets me. Like,
yeah. So
it's just so good. I mean, the show's good, the music's good, the characters are great so far. I look forward to seeing who we're gonna meet off planet with Luthen and Cassian, and then I'd love to see Bix back. Sounds like we get her for at least one more episode. I hope nothing bad happens to her because, well, I'd love to see more of her.
well, we talked about that in a past episode. Like, how does, the people that he's associated with are gonna, are gonna get in trouble, and the question is, is he gonna be able to help them? And if not, how that eventually drives him to the character that we see in Rogue One. We talked about it. His friends have to, they're going to have to die at certain points, right?
Here's the thing. Like, I honestly believe that he's going to go back to the planet, Ferrix, and he's going to build a team.
Okay.
Because Luthen's going to send him on something. And he's going to build a team. So he's going to go back to guys he knows, people he knows. So Bix, Bresto, we're going to get those guys. Like, we're going to get them again. They wouldn't have given them names if we weren't going to get them again.
True.
They're not bigs.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they are. But they're not bigs. And I think we're going to get them again in the series. And they're going to be part of the team. And I hope he doesn't slowly lose them, but I think he might. So during whatever missions he's on for Luthen or... well, the Rebel Alliance, because that's who he's going to start working for.
Right. And I guess as far as trying to forecast where, the next 9 episodes go, right, we already talked about the flashbacks, given more of his upbringing, his time being arrested to begin with, because, again, in the first, or I guess this is the 3rd episode, right, he's from Fest. Right, all of his prior arrest records say he's from Fest, etc. So that backstory has to be laid. The only thing I'm not sure about is, the antagonist being the deputy inspector, but is it solely to clear his name, or to get him off his back? Like, is that the trajectory of this first season? Is it for him to finish the season as part of the Rebel Alliance with Mon Mothma and Saw and everybody, and those people? I mean, that's probably what it is he's going to go through a number of trials, a number of missions, like you just said, where it's slowly going to be revealed to him why he needs to fight, like why he needs to commit himself to the cause. Because right now, he tells Lucen, "Why would I come with you? Right? Don't you want to fight these bastards for real?" And I think over a period of time, his demeanor will change, either through his own actions or, stuff that's done to others, but to basically galvanize him to the rebel cause. And so I'm really excited to see what those chain of events are to do that. So
yeah, I mean, that all... Luthen's going to be the driving force there. Mm-hmm. So, like, he's going to control Cassian's actions, because Cassian's going to get to the point where he trusts him one way or another. And Luthen might trust him or might just be using him. And either way, he's going to complete many missions. And I feel like he's going to need a team. Mm-hmm. So, honestly, I can't wait to see the next episode. I'm very excited for this show. Mm-hmm. And, looking good so far. Like, looking great so far.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really it for this kind of recap, unless you have anything else to add.
Yeah.
No? All right. Well, with that, we'll bring our show to a close. We want to thank everyone for listening tonight. If you do enjoy the content, please do feel free to share it. We really appreciate that. Make sure to touch base with us on our social media channels. Those will be in the show notes. And then
got to pitch our guys over at Galactic Dads for a minute. Talk about She-Hulk, Rings of Power, and I mean everything dad. So like honestly, if you guys have a chance and if you're interested in anything other than Star Wars, just go ahead and give them a listen. You'll be entertained. And I know.
So they're at Galactic Dads on all the social channels and podcast platforms. So so with that, we'll wrap up. And for Jedi John, I'm Obi-Sean, and until next time,
May the Force be with you.